Have you ever walked into a hotel room and felt like something was slightly off, even though everything looked perfectly normal? Hotels are supposed to be places of rest, but some carry stories so striking that ordinary guests ended up recording experiences that are hard to explain. And we're not just talking about old legends. In many cases, there are reports left in guest logs, interviews, local news coverage, and even repeated testimonies from staff members over the years. Over time, certain rooms gain a reputation. Certain hallways always seem a little colder. The silence after midnight becomes part of the story. Is it all suggestion, or are there places where the past truly refuses to leave? Today, you're coming with me on a guided journey through 10 hotels with real reports recorded by guests. The tension builds with every stop, starting with the less intense cases and moving toward the most chilling one of all. Stay until the end, because number 1 is the most impactful and, for many people, the place where the line between history and personal experience becomes hardest to separate. United States, New Orleans, Hotel Monteleone. Located in the heart of the French Quarter in New Orleans, the Hotel Monteleone has been operating since 1886 and is one of the city's most historic landmarks. The building has expanded several times throughout the 20th century, yet it still preserves its classic style, with long hallways, thick carpeting, and soft lighting that makes the upper floors especially quiet after midnight. The hotel's reputation began growing when guests started reporting similar experiences over the decades. Accounts mentioned doors that appear to open on their own, footsteps echoing through empty corridors, and elevators stopping on floors where no one pressed a button. Circulation inside the hotel is completely normal, as it remains fully operational. There are no structural risks, but the historic architecture, combined with the quieter side of the French Quarter at night, creates a naturally introspective atmosphere. On certain upper floors, the environment feels noticeably more isolated from the street below. Documented fact: over the years, staff members have given interviews acknowledging recurring reports from guests. Popular account: visitors claim to have seen the figure of a child or even former employees walking through the halls, something never officially confirmed. The Monteleone has embraced this reputation without losing its status as a refined hotel. But if the reports here are subtle and tied to specific floors, the next hotel features one particular room that has become the center of repeated stories for generations. Hollywood, Los Angeles, United States, the Roosevelt Hotel. Opened in 1927, the Roosevelt Hotel is located on the famous Hollywood Boulevard, directly across from the TCL Chinese Theater, a venue that has hosted countless historic film premieres. The hotel quickly became a gathering place for major stars of Hollywood's golden age, welcoming actors, producers, and celebrities who helped shape the American film industry. Over the decades, reports of unusual experiences began circulating among guests and staff. One of the most well-known stories involves the alleged apparition of Marilyn Monroe, who stayed at the hotel early in her career. Visitors have claimed to see unexplained reflections in an antique mirror, said to have belonged to the actress. A story that has been widely covered in media outlets and television programs. The structure preserves elements of 1920s architecture, with long hallways, warm lighting, and expansive ballrooms that contrast with the constant movement outside on the boulevard. Late at night, the silence on the upper floors creates an atmosphere entirely different from the daytime glamour associated with the property. The hotel remains fully operational and presents no structural risks. Even so, its historical connection to legendary film figures and its preserved old Hollywood ambiance continue to spark curiosity among visitors intrigued by the stories that circulate through its corridors. Documented fact: the hotel hosted the first Academy Awards ceremony in 1929 and is widely recognized for its historical significance in Hollywood. Popular report: guests mention unexpected reflections in mirrors, footsteps in empty hallways, and a sense of being watched in certain rooms. The Roosevelt remains a symbol of classic Hollywood glamour. And while the stories here seem to blend fame with imagination, the next locations on the list involve accounts that feel far more persistent. United States, California, Hotel del Coronado. Opened in 1888, the Hotel del Coronado is one of the most famous historic hotels in the United States. Located along the California coastline, its white wooden Victorian structure and red rooftops stand in contrast to the calm beach setting. In 1892, a young woman registered as Kate Morgan was found deceased on the hotel grounds. The case was reported in newspapers at the time and remains surrounded by historical questions. This event is widely considered the turning point in the hotel's reputation, as reports soon began to surface connected to certain rooms and areas near the original staircase. The hotel is expansive, with hundreds of rooms, large ballrooms, and long corridors. Its wooden structure produces natural creaks, especially at night when activity slows down. The sound of the ocean and coastal wind reinforces the quiet atmosphere during late hours. Access is completely normal, with open circulation through staircases and elevators. There are no structural risks, but the size of the property can create quieter zones during periods of low occupancy. Documented fact: Kate Morgan's passing is recorded in historical California newspapers. Popular account: guests report objects shifting position and lights flickering in rooms associated with the case, something never officially confirmed. The Hotel del Coronado has incorporated this past into its historical narrative. But if a single event shaped this hotel's identity, the next destination takes us to a castle in the mountains, where stories seem to echo across generations. Canada, Alberta, Fairmont Banff Springs Hotel. Located in the province of Alberta, Canada, the Fairmont Banff Springs Hotel opened in 1888 as part of a railway expansion project designed to promote tourism in the Rocky Mountains. Built in a Scottish castle style, complete with stone walls, towers, and expansive corridors, the hotel quickly became one of the most iconic landmarks in North America. Throughout the 20th century, guests began reporting unusual experiences, many of which have been repeated for generations. One of the most well-known stories involves the so-called ghost bride, connected to an incident said to have occurred during a wedding ceremony in the early 1900s. While the hotel's history is well documented, many specific details of this story remain part of local oral tradition. The structure is massive, with elegant staircases, long hallways, and wings that seem to stretch endlessly. At night, the silence of the surrounding mountains contrasts sharply with the size of the building. The sound of wind brushing against the windows and footsteps echoing across thick carpeting creates a noticeably different mood after sunset. The hotel operates normally and is considered one of Canada's most luxurious properties. There are no structural concerns, but the building's scale and layout can create a mild sense of isolation during quieter hours. Documented fact: historical records and internal accounts acknowledge decades of guest reports tied to specific areas of the hotel. Popular account: visitors describe seeing a woman dressed in white near the main staircase, vanishing moments later. Banff Springs remains a symbol of elegance in the mountains. But if a modern castle already carries this many stories, the next hotel inspired one of the most famous works in contemporary horror. United States, Colorado, the Stanley Hotel. Opened in 1909 in Estes Park, Colorado, the Stanley Hotel is one of the most recognized historic hotels in the United States. Set against the backdrop of the Rocky Mountains, its white colonial architecture stands out dramatically against the rugged landscape. The hotel gained international attention in the 1970s when author Stephen King stayed there and later cited it as direct inspiration for his novel, The Shining. The building features long corridors, wide staircases, and high ceilings. During periods of low occupancy, especially in winter, the upper floors become remarkably quiet. Mountain winds and the natural sounds of the aging structure intensify the nighttime atmosphere. The hotel remains fully operational and structurally safe. However, its geographic isolation can create a strong sense of detachment, particularly when fog settles over the surrounding landscape. Documented fact: Stephen King's stay at the hotel is confirmed and widely recognized as influential in shaping his novel. Popular account: guests report hearing footsteps in empty hallways and piano music coming from the main hall late at night. Today, the Stanley offers historical and nighttime tours, exploring both its documented past and reported experiences. And if you're enjoying this journey so far, make sure to hit like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell. Because from this point forward, the stories become heavier and even harder to ignore. Northern Ireland, Ballygally Castle Hotel. Located along the coast of Northern Ireland, the Ballygally Castle Hotel operates inside a 17th century structure originally built in 1625 as a defensive fortress. The building still preserves its stone towers, thick walls, and narrow windows facing the sea, maintaining much of its original character. Over the centuries, reports have become associated with the figure of Lady Isabel Shaw, linked to the castle's original owning family. Historical records confirm the Shaw family's presence, but many details of her personal story have been passed down through local tradition. The corridors are narrow, spiral staircases lead to upper floors, and there is even a room known as the Ghost Room, preserved as part of the hotel's historical identity. At night, ocean winds strike the stone exterior, producing natural sounds that echo through the halls. The hotel operates year-round and is structurally safe. However, the enclosed architecture and thick stone walls can create a noticeable sense of confinement, particularly on the upper levels. Documented fact: the castle dates back to the 17th century, and historical records confirm its original ownership. Popular account: guests describe light knocking on doors during the night and footsteps in the upper corridors when no one is present. Ballygally has turned centuries of history into part of the guest experience. But if a seaside castle already carries this many stories, the final stretch of our list moves into places where the reports feel even more persistent. United States, New York, Hotel Chelsea. Located in Manhattan, New York, the Hotel Chelsea opened in 1884 and became one of the most iconic artistic addresses in the United States. Throughout the 20th century, it hosted writers, musicians, and cultural figures who shaped American art and music. Alongside its creative legacy, however, certain incidents that occurred inside its rooms gained major media attention and contributed to a darker layer of its reputation. One of the most widely known episodes involves an incident in 1978 that was heavily covered by American newspapers. That event permanently marked the hotel's public image, tying its name not only to artistic expression, but also to intense personal stories that unfolded behind closed doors. The building features a red brick facade, narrow hallways, and an old-style elevator that reinforces its historic character. At night, the contrast between the noise of New York City and the relative silence inside the upper floors creates a distinct atmosphere. The long corridors and aged architectural details amplify even subtle sounds. The hotel remains active and has undergone renovations with no structural safety concerns. Still, walking through its hallways can feel like stepping into preserved moments from another era, especially late at night. Documented fact: the 1978 incident involving a British musician is extensively recorded in American media archives. Popular account: guests have mentioned subtle temperature changes and faint noises in quieter corridors, experiences never officially confirmed. The Chelsea remains a cultural landmark in New York, but if its stories were shaped by the intensity of the city's artistic scene, the next location combines luxury with a documented chapter that still raises questions today. United States, Arkansas, Crescent Hotel. Located in Eureka Springs, Arkansas, the Crescent Hotel opened in 1886 as a luxury resort overlooking the Ozark Mountains. Over time, the building went through several transformations, including a controversial period in the 1930s when it operated as a hospital under the direction of an entrepreneur who promised alternative medical treatments. That chapter became the turning point in the hotel's reputation. Historical documents confirm that the building was used for medical procedures later exposed as fraudulent. After that period ended, the property returned to its function as a hotel, but the association with that era remained firmly attached to its identity. The structure is large and built from stone, with wide verandas, multiple floors, and long interior corridors. It includes older staircases and lower-level spaces that were once used during its hospital phase. At night, wind moves across the hillside, and the natural sounds of the aging building echo through the hallways. The hotel operates year-round and is considered structurally safe. However, the existence of basement areas and its documented past contribute to a heightened sense of tension for some visitors. Documented fact: records confirm that the building functioned as a hospital during the 1930s under controversial management. Popular account: guests describe hearing footsteps on upper floors and sensing a presence in rooms connected to that period, reports that remain unverified. Today, the Crescent offers guided historical tours explaining its past. But if this building already blends luxury with documented controversy, the final two locations take the experience to another level entirely. Taiwan, Taipei, Grand Hyatt Taipei. Located in Taipei, Taiwan, the Grand Hyatt Taipei opened in 1990 next to the iconic Taipei 101 and quickly became one of the city's most prestigious hotels. Modern, elegant, and constantly busy, its reputation does not come from old architecture, but from recurring guest reports that emerged over time. Local historical research frequently cited in Taiwanese media indicates that the land where the hotel was built may have been used as a detention site during the Second World War. While the current structure is entirely contemporary, this historical association has often been mentioned as a possible explanation for some of the reports shared by guests. The hotel is expansive, with hundreds of rooms spread across multiple floors. Long corridors, soft lighting during late hours, and thick carpeting that absorbs footsteps create a noticeably quiet environment after midnight. The contrast between modern luxury and near-total silence can feel unexpectedly intense. Access is fully organized and secure, with fast elevators and open circulation. There are no structural risks, but during slower hours, the hallways can feel unusually empty for such a large building. Documented fact: historical sources confirm that the surrounding area was used during the wartime period, a detail referenced in local studies. Popular account: some guests report hearing faint voices or sensing a presence in specific rooms, experiences never officially validated. The Grand Hyatt Taipei shows that a building does not need centuries of history to accumulate persistent reports. And if a modern luxury hotel can carry this reputation, the final location on our list involves a massive historic structure that once crossed oceans before becoming a hotel. United States, California, the Queen Mary. Permanently docked in Long Beach, California, the Queen Mary began its life as a British luxury ocean liner launched in 1936. During the Second World War, it was converted into a military transport ship, crossing oceans with thousands of troops on board. Decades later, after retiring from service, it was transformed into a floating hotel and tourist attraction. Its conversion into a hotel in the 1970s marked the beginning of a growing reputation tied to guest and staff reports. As more areas of the ship were opened for tours and overnight stays, experiences began to be associated with former cabins, metal corridors, and even sections near the engine room. The structure is enormous, with multiple decks, steep staircases, narrow passageways, and heavy metal doors. Unlike a traditional hotel, the ship's naval layout includes curved corridors and compartments with reduced lighting, naturally increasing the sense of confinement. Some areas still preserve their original 1930s design. Access is controlled and secure, but at night the sound of wind and water striking the hull echoes throughout the ship. Metal surfaces amplify even minor noises, and temperature shifts between decks can feel abrupt. Certain cabins, especially B340, are frequently mentioned in guest reports. Documented fact: the Queen Mary served actively during the Second World War, and historical records detail incidents that occurred while transporting troops. Popular account: guests describe hearing footsteps on empty decks and heavy doors closing on their own, particularly near specific cabins, though none of these experiences have been officially confirmed. Today, the Queen Mary fully embraces its complex history, offering both historical and nighttime tours. After traveling through elegant hotels, mountain castles, and modern high-rises, it is here that the blend of documented history and repeated guest reports reaches its most intense point. From the classic elegance of New Orleans to the metal corridors of a historic ocean liner in California, this journey showed how hotels can hold far more than simple travel memories. We started with subtle reports in refined buildings and ended with a massive structure shaped by decades of real events and first-hand accounts. Throughout the list, we explored documented facts, historically confirmed episodes, and experiences shared by ordinary guests. These places continue operating normally, yet their past still sparks curiosity and quiet conversations. These hotels are not just luxury properties. They are real spaces marked by what happened there and by what many people still hesitate to explain out loud. Now I want to hear from you. Would you spend a night in any of these hotels? Which one caught your attention the most? And what other hotel with real recorded reports should be featured in a future video? If you enjoy this kind of content that blends documented history with real-world mystery, make sure to leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell. That support helps the channel grow and ensures I keep bringing you videos with this same immersive style every week.